restart.
We should restart. Okay. Namaste, Dr. Srinivasanji, who is our distinguished speaker, who is presently Anna Subramania Iyer Chair at KSRA Chennai, who was a former principal of RKM Vivekananda College Chennai. Dr. Gitesh Nirvan, co-convener of this webinar series. Dear viewers, I welcome you all to our webinar series on Mahabharata, initiated under the project Yoga Consciousness in Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, the ethical value for societal and political well-being, taken up under the project, under the scheme for promotion of academic research and collaboration of Ministry of Education, Government of India. Our team includes Professor Vishwa Adluri, Professor of Philosophy, Hunter College, USA, Dr. Joydeep Bagchi, Hindu University of America, USA, Dr. Gitesh Nirban, Kamala Nehru College, Delhi University, Delhi, and me, Professor Bala, Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi. We are supported by young researchers, Ms. Jayashree and Ms. Anmol, who are working in the project as research fellows. And we have an extended team of two more scholars, Ms. Deepshika and Ms. Megha. So this is our team with which we are working. And as I have already mentioned, the project which is taken up is under the theme Yoga Consciousness in Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, the ethical value for societal and political well-being. And this project is taken up with certain objectives. More specifically, if I have to mention about these objectives, there are 3 pointers which are very important. One is, how do we understand yoga consciousness in Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita? This is one of the main concerns. The other very important concern that we have is the ethical values, which would be useful for societal well-being, and also the ethical values which could be useful for political well-being as well. So these three were the primary focus of the project, along with the very pertinent question, which is of universal value to all of us, like what is the right course of action? And if there is any right course of action, how do we know that? This is the primary focus of the project, and that's where the agency, individual, punishment, all these aspects become a part of it, ethical values, etc. So far, we had lectures on yoga consciousness, political well-being, social well-being, Bhagavad Gita specifically on the text, and we also had a feminist reading of the text even. We are very fortunate today to have Professor Srinivasan with us, who is a very well-known Sanskritist and a wonderful scholar, versatile scholar, who belongs to the textual tradition. You know, what is very important for the contemporary times is, especially for the younger generations, to get back to the text and be devoted to the text and try to understand what is there in it. You know? So here we have today a wonderful scholar who is a textual scholar who has devoted much of his time to the textual studies, who would be speaking to us today on Satyavan's dialogue, the need for humanness in punishment. So when we look at Mahabharata, it is comprised of many akhyanas and upakhyanas. No, upakhyanas are stories which are very important, and it is not that they deviate from the main story, and it is not that they completely try to distort the attention of the reader. Upakhyanas are ancillaries which help the development of the story and which have a purpose with which they were narrated. So when we look at these upakhyanas, they have a very important role to play. And when we look at these upakhyanas, there are certain stories. Some of these stories are related to creation, stories related to creation, and conflict between created beings due to desire, anger, attachment, and hatred. So we find various kinds of upakhyanas related to this. And along with this, we also find stories that are related to practice of dharma by the human beings. What are the problems that we come across in practicing the dharma? That's where the ethical values, etc., come into picture, making a distinction between pravritti dharma and nivritti dharma, etc. And we also have different sort of stories which are related to curses and boons by rishis, and it's not just by rishis, no, but basically something that we have to understand with regard to the stories related to curses and boon. Curses especially is that even gods are not exceptions to this. No, if a person wants to curse, even God has to take that curse and go with that. No, so the curses and the stories are another important aspect that we find in Upakhyanas. Along with that, dharma, niti, nyaya, no? The ethical theory, ethical perspective, and how it is being practiced. And looking at it within the purview of dharma, these are very important sort of stories that we come across. And we would be listening to Srinivasanji with regard to one of such kind of stories where there was a debate on punishment. So this forms very much a part of political well-being that we are talking about, and also social well-being that we are talking about, and also it definitely would address what is the right course of action, right? So with these brief remarks, I request Dr. Geetesh to take over the proceedings and introduce Srinivasanji to all of us. Thank you so much. Over to you, Geetesh.
Thank you, Professor Bala. Good morning and namaskar to all. Dr. Bala has already introduced the project and the purpose of the series of ongoing webinars, and I take the opportunity to introduce our esteemed guest of the day. Before that, I request all our participants to keep their videos off and sound muted so that we can have a seamless flow of today's webinar also. All participants are requested to send in their questions in the chat box, and we'll try to give space to all the queries by far possible. And herein I introduce our speaker. Dr. K. Srinivasan is the former principal and head at the Department of Sanskrit, RKM Vivekanand College, Malapur, Chennai. Presently, he is holding Anna Subramaniam Iyer Chair at KSRI, Chennai. He joined his own alma mater as faculty, where he worked for 37 years. He was an associate professor and then became the head of the department and later the principal in the last 2 years of his service. He studied under Sri V.R. Kalyanasundara Shastrigal and Sri K. Balasubramaniam Shastrigal. He pursued his PhD from Madras and had been invited to Hebrew University, Jerusalem and Chicago. Being a Sanskritist, he's rooted in the study of Indian textual tradition and has been so kind enough to spare time for us today to deliver an address on one of the sub-narratives in the epic Mahabharata. And the title of today's talk is Satyavan's Dialogue, The Need for Humanness in Punishment. I now request Dr. Srinivasan to take over and deliver the address.
Thank you. यस्य प्रसादात् मूकोऽपि वावदूकोऽभिजायते भाष्यभावज्ञ विख्यातः सद्गुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् पंडितानां च राजानं शास्त्रे रत्नाकरोपमं बालपूर्वं गुरुं वन्दे सुब्रह्मण्याभिधं मुदा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Friends, I thank Professor Dr. Balaganapathy Devarakonda, Dr. Geetesh Nirbhan, and other people connected with the Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi, Kamala Nehru College, affiliated to the university, and other department people who are connected with the SPARK program, the research scholars who happen to be what is called the pillars or the backbones of conducting these programs. And thank you all for inviting me. I leave it to the public who will be attending it to thank or not. That is something different matter. let us now take up the matter straight away. There are two Satyavan stories. One story is the very famous Savitri Satyavan, which most of the people should be aware of. And we celebrate the what is called Savitri Satyavan story in the Karnataka as Vata Savitri Vrata, that may be sometime in Ashada. And then there is Savitri, it is called, this Vrata is performed in Tamil Nadu also. That will be sometime in Kumbha Masa, that is towards the fag end of the, that is the penultimate month of the year, in the beginning of the penultimate month and the last month of the Sauramana calendar, solar calendar. So on two different days, that particular thing is performed. But this Satyavan is something different from that Satyavan. He is altogether a different one. He is not Mr. Savitri, he is Master Dhimatsena. His father is Dhimatsena. And before proceeding further, let us look into the background where this Upakhyanā is set in Mahabharata. This Upakhyanā, this story finds a place in Shanti Parva. Shanti Parva has got three major subsections: Rajadharma Anusasana Parva, Apadharma Parva, and Moksha Dharma Parva. And all the three Parvas together take 365 chapters. And the Rajadharma Anusasana Parva deals with some emergency matters or crisis or general administration. These are the discussion between Bhishma and Yudhishthira. And that is, Apadharma Parva. Rajadharma Parva is a general discussion for the administration. And then the most important, Moksha Dharma Parva, if there are mental problems for the king, personal problems like that, how he has to deal with. Those things also are there. Say, for example, the king may be moved out, things like that, because seeing some sufferings like that, how to get over those problems. It is not only from crisis point of view of the administration, but it is from personal, those administrative crises creating a personal crisis in the king. So those things are also dealt with. And now, in this situation, that is in the Moksha Dharma Parva, it is essentially one of Sankhya philosophy going, because Panchasika, Asuri, Kapila, etc., who happen to be the early Sankhya teachers. In fact, Kapila is said to be the founder of a Sankhya philosophy. And from Kapila, it is Panchasika, Asuri, and other peoples have come, Varshaganya, and such a line of teaching. Even though those books are not available, they very much happen to be the characters in Mahabharata here. And they have the carry on the discussion with the Janaka, as Professor recounted by Balaganapati. They discuss with the Srishti matters, and so many other Srishti matters appear in different places. Here also Srishti matters connected with the Sankhya philosophy also is presented. So those things are there. So that becomes, such is the situation. And what is the importance of Sankhya philosophy? One, there may be many. That is, Sankhya may be popular philosophy at the time, or they might have wanted that philosophy to be presented, etc. But one important thing is, Sankhya is a Kathora Ahimsa practitioner. He is as good as or as equivalent to Jain people in practicing Ahimsa. The Sankhya people also are, early Sankhya people also are Mukapatiwalas. They used to cover, as we have now our mask, they followed the mask in those days in order to what is called practice Ahimsa. That is, in order to practice Jivakaranya, so that minor insects may not enter into the nose or mouth, etc. So they covered, and then they are the one who filtered the water, and then they used it. This sort of too much. Not only that, many people might have seen the Ishwara Krishna Sankhya Karika in the first two verses, more or less, which are like Mangala Sloka. While discussing the Mangala Sloka, the purpose of the what is called this study of Sankhya, he says, Sahi Abhishuddhi Kshaya Atishaya Lakshanaha. That is, how can one get over the Dukkatraya, that is Adhyatmika, Adi Devika, and Adi Bhautika, Dukkatraya Bhigata, Jijnasa, Tadapaghatake Hetau, Drishte Sa Apartha. He says, how can we get over the Dukkatraya? There are what is called the practical ways, or ways which are perceptible. They don't give us a final solution for all this, getting over this one. Then why not Vedic method? That is the sacrifices which are performed, which are what is called given in Vedas. And then why can't we perform sacrifices, thereby get the results, that is Swarga, etc., to get over the Dukkatraya? There the Sankhya people's rejoinder is na. That is, you can't get permanent pleasure and permanent cessation of pain by performance of these Vedic sacrifices. The reason being, Vedic sacrifices are not absolutely clean and pure. Avishuddhi, Kshaya, Atishaya. They have got three problems. Avishuddhi means they are not pure because they involve animal sacrifice. And Kshaya, being a karma, they can't give you permanent results. Shine Punya Martyalokam Visanti, as it is recounted in Bhagavad Gita. And Atishaya, the pleasure is not an Eldorado. It is not going to be, what is called absolutely equal. There also gradations are there. Where there is gradation, there cannot be absolute pleasure. So since Vedic sacrifices also involve these three problems, we cannot prefer Vedic sacrifice as one way of giving us permanent pleasure. This is the Sankhya view, but the importance is their importance to ahimsa. Now, what is the problem here? Yudhishthira gets this problem. If ahimsa is such an important concept, if it is more important, is not ahimsa universal and compulsory for all the people? That means even for the king. Then if the king were to follow the rule of ahimsa in the administration, how can he inflict punishment or how can he carry on the administration? Sometimes the administrators may have to be ruthless. They have to follow, they have to they have to be very, what is called critical and cruel. So how is it possible? That may not be possible. So he wants Bhishma's guidance. How can one person follow ahimsa or follow Sankhya rules and what is called carry on administration also? Do they go together? Whether this philosophy and kingly stately administration, whether they go together? That is one of the questions posed by Yudhishthira to Bhishma. And here the important point to be noted is Bhishma going to answer this question, but while starting the answer, he does not straight away starts the question. This is the answer for your question, like that as usual. Because whenever you have an answer, the answer may not always be yes or no, or do this or don't do this. There won't you get cut and right answer. The answers are in the background of certain stories so that the answers can be understood better by the person who posed the question, and he can understand the answers in the context in which it is applied, and he will be able to understand the present context in which the king is placed, and then he will be able to interpret the answer and apply the answer as it suits to him, as it suits to his country and all those things. So it becomes, the narratives becomes very important, and the narratives have got different, as has been recounted by Professor Balaganapati. They have got different names. Some of the narratives are called Upakyanas, and some other narratives are called Itihasa. And here, when Bhishma starts answering Yudhishthira, Atrapi udaharanti imam itihasam puratanam. He says, Bhishma says, here people narrate or give an example of an earlier history. Itihasa. The word itihasa means iti ha asa. That is, thus it was. So it is not a simple story to give some information to the person concerned or to understand certain importance, etc. It is not Akyayika Stutyartha. Shankara may say in his Upanishad Bhashya, Akyayika Stutyartha. Akyayika is for the sake of Arthavada to praise certain things. So it is not like praise certain things. Udaharanti itihasam. Here the story is given because the story has got, the story means it is not an imaginary question. It is not the answer given to an imaginary question, or it is not an hypothetical question. So the answer cannot be dismissed as hypothetical question. So now the question is an actual question, and the actual question has been posed by a particular person, and the answer is there, and the answer continued to the folk memory, that is continued through all the generations, and that has been presented to Bhishma. So the earlier people have presented the story to Bhishma. That is when Bhishma was studying or learning his politics, it was presented to him. And now Bhishma remembered that particular story and that particular point, and he is presenting it to Yudhishthira. So he says it is an earlier story, something which has happened. Hence, that becomes, in that particular sense, it becomes important. In this context, I would like to remind you of three terms generally used in Sanskrit. Of course, it is there in all the vernacular languages in different terminologies. It is there, generally it is there in every society, every civilization, not exclusive to Sanskrit or Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. Suta, Magadha, Vandinaha. There are three people. Suta, all the three peoples are recounters. They narrate stories. But all the three people generally do not narrate the stories just like that. There is a different purpose. Vandi or Vaitalika is a character who are found in Sanskrit dramas. Generally, they are there in all the court, but in Sanskrit drama, generally they are used because they will announce the time for the king. While announcing the time for the king, they will narrate the greatness, or they will explain the greatness, they explain the great achievement of that particular king. And then they say, in the rule of such and such king, now the time is 12 o'clock, it is time for lunch, like that. So they will say, so those people who record or who chronicle the achievement of a particular king in whose court they are employed are called Vandi. And Magadha are people who who chronicle the records and achievements of that particular dynasty. And Sutas are the people who chronicle the greatness, the history of the local people, and then of the region and all those things. So Sutas are more concerned with the history of the region, history and geography of the particular country, or that particular what is called the empire and all those things. That's why in all the Puranas, you have got Suta Puranika. The narrations are by Suta Puranika. Whereas in Kavyas and smaller historical Kavyas, you find Magadhas and Sutas. Now, these three types of chroniclers, Suta, Magadha and Vandi, they are present and they have worked. Their importance show how the stories have been remembered and they are being carried on. In fact, Kalhana also says in his Rajatarangani how he consulted ancient inscriptions, folk tales, the material by Sutas, Magadhas, etc. to what is called the collect material for his Rajatarangani, etc. That's another matter. So in this is how what is called Sutas are presenting information for the later stories. And now this particular thing, this becomes very important because for Bhishma's narration, he says, Itihasam Puratanam, Atrapi Udaharantimam, Itihasam Puratanam. And while defining Dharma, in the Kalpa Sutras, they say Dharma is Nahi Dharma Dharmo Akase Chartaha Avam Swaha iti. Dharma and Adharma, they are not flying in the air, declaring I am Dharma and I am Dharma, Adharma. So Yam Aryaha Prasamsanti sa Dharmaha, Yam Garhanti sa Adharmaha. So what people in general accept is Dharma, what they decry is Adharma. Then Yudhishthira asks the question, if this were to be the definition of Dharma and Adharma, that involves the problem of Anyonyasraya. Because as it is presented in jurisprudence, whether law generally what is called follows the local conventions. Because whatever is there in the local conventions are codified later into a law. Now, whether local conventions are to be taken as authoritative or should law be taken as authoritative, both of them may be dependent on each other. So there can be what is called the problem of mutual dependency. So this is the question. And what is the pramana of dharma? Ko dharmaha? What is dharma? Kuto dharmaha? Where from that dharma comes? Tanme bruhi pitamaha, he asks. And then he further asks, dharmastu ihartaha kim amutrartaha. Always we say dharma. Is dharma for the benefit and result of here in this world while we are living, or amutrartaha, or in the other world? Should dharma be followed for the other world, are followed for in this world or for both. This is how Bhishma, I mean Yudhishthira puts a question to Bhishma, and here while answering, Bhishma follows Kautilya. I don't know whether Bhishma follows Kautilya or Kautilya follows Bhishma. I'm not getting into the problem of the date of Mahabharata, because for Satyavan's dialogue, I take the present Mahabharata presented by Gita Press Gorakhpur edition as the work, and I'm not going into the what is called the discussions like Jaya, Bharata Samhita, Mahabharata, and things like that. I'm not going into all those details. So we take this particular book, and here Sadacharaha Smritir Vedaha Trividham Dharma Lakshanam. Normally, whenever there is a pramana for dharma, the pramana for dharma is presented Vedaha Smritihi Acharaha. Veda is given being an Apaurushaya, that is given a prominence, but in the political discourses, Achara, that is Rajagnya. Rajagnya is taken as the first pramana, supreme pramana, and then Achara, Smritihi, Vedaha, in that order. So Veda becomes the last pramana, and the Bhishma also says Chaturtham Arthamityahuhu. Artham, the purpose. That is, purpose may be Manastushti or Rajagnya, etc. That also is included. Normally, that is not included in Dharma Sastras, but it is included in the political discourses. So Bhishma says the first three, but Chaturtham Arthamityahuhu. So in that order, Artham will be that is the edict or the dicta of the king. The jivos of the king will become the primary pramana for what is called the rule or the law, and all other things will become secondary. And the primary rule is Loka Yatrartham. That is proper procedure or proper movement or proper living of all the people in a state. All the people should live happily without any disturbance from anybody, and they should be free to carry on their avocations. There should not be any confusion in this regard. So that becomes more important thing. So Loka Yatrartham iti dharmasya niyama kritaha. Dharma has been restricted so that the Loka Yatra will be carried on without any disturbance whatsoever. This is how Dharma is presented. Now, okay, now if it is that to be Dharma, Bhishma, Yudhishthira asks another question: how can we carry on the Dharma? Then, in order to carry on the Dharma, and in punishment, etc., in that punishment concept, there is a story of Vichaknu. Vichaknu says sacrifices. Initially, I have referred to about the context of the Ahimsa in Sankhya. The Vichaknu story finds a place there, and in the Vichaknu story, how sacrifices cannot be performed involving animal sacrifice. That he says, those who perform animal sacrifice, etc., are not doing properly, they don't understand, and he even uses the word Nastika. Watch Vichaknu there. Maybe we are calling Mimamsakas as Nirishwara Mimamsakas, hence he may be perhaps using the word Nastika there, referring to Mimamsaka, but it is not specifically saying Mimamsaka, but those who perform in a sacrifice involving cruelty, such people are referred to as fools and the Nastikas, like that. They have been termed like that. That is, they don't have clear-cut understanding. Nastika in the sense, they don't have very clear-cut understanding of Veda. Now, Yudhishthira's next question is, if Dharma were to be, say, some people are interpreting like this, other people are interpreting, and what is to be followed, and how can we decide which is Dharma, which is not Dharma? Then Bhishma introduces the story of involving the deep discussion, deep analysis, a thorough analysis, and all those things. It is called the Chirakari Vrtanta, the famous Jajali Tuladhara Vrtanta that is introduced here. And then, of course, these are all the background. In this background, Yudhishthira comes. When it comes to the protection of people, now the protection of sacrifice, protection of animals, all those things have been taken up. When it comes to the protection of people, Katham Raja Prajaha Rakshet. It is the first chapter, I think in the 267th Adhyaya of this particular Shanti Parva section, where the Dhimatsena Satyavan's story is narrated. Dhimatsena is the king, Satyavan his son. and some people have committed some mistake, very serious mistake perhaps, and they have been ordered to be, it does not say, the Mahabharata does not say what mistakes they have committed, what punishment they have been awarded, etc. Vadhartam niyamaneshu, vadhaya unniyamaneshu. They are being led for vadha. For vadha means, for generally we take it as a capital punishment, or it may be very serious punishment of what is called some suffering involving physical harm, something like that. Vadha can be, depending on the context, it can be anything. But some of the translations have what is called given it as vadha means up to capital punishment. Impalement, in one of the translation we find impalement like that. So that is the context. Now Yudhishthira asks this question: Katham Raja Prajaha Rakshe Nacha Kinchit Praghatayet. That is, if the king has to follow the ahimsa, if the king has to follow not to inflict injuries, then how can he protect people? Prichamitvam satam sreshta tanme bruhi pitamaha. I am asking this question. Please answer me. So how can he protect without inflicting punishment? Bhishma says, this is how I started. Atrapyudaharantimam itihasam puratanam. Here people give the example of puratana, old itihasa. So this becomes an important word, itihasa. Itihasa is narration of an historical event. Iti ha asa. Asa is the past tense word. Thus indeed was he. So such a person lived there. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are called itihasas. So in this way. So it is an actual problem. That means historical information means it is not, as I said earlier, it is not a hypothetical question, but actually a current problem discussed by the people, and might have been what is called continued in commentaries and later days also. So now what happens? Another what is called there he says, Dyumatsenasya Samvadam Rajnya Satyavata Saha. This is Bhishma's statement. I will just narrate the story of the discussion which Dyumatsena had with his son Rajnya, the king Satyavan. So I will now narrate this dialogue between these people, Dyumatsena and king. And another important point is the statement by Bhishma, Avyahritam Vyajahara Satyavaniti Nasrutam. We have also heard. He does not say it is my opinion. Bhishma does not say. Iti Nahasrutam. We have also heard Avyahritam Vyajahara. That is, Satyavan spoke Avyahritam, ideas which have not been spoken earlier. So he spoke some ideas which have not been spoken earlier. That is, this problem of cruelty in punishment has not been raised earlier, has not been spoken of earlier. All the people thought, that is, earlier lawmakers and earlier kings must have thought that cruelty in punishment must be a must. Say punishment, they thought, what is the purpose of the punishment? Say the essential, the humanness in punishment, the title which I have given based on this topic is, Satyavan says, what should be the purpose of punishment? So he says, it is not the mistakes are there, or the quarrels are there on one side, and punishments are there. So what sort of punishment is to be given to which crime or something like that? It is not blindly what is called giving punishment, seeing the crimes. People may be punishing crimes. There is something different. I mean, performing crimes, doing crimes. But now when the king is introducing punishment, he must have a philosophy of punishment. So it is not a blind punishment to what is called to stop people from performing punishment, but the punishment should have a fundamental philosophy. He must be able to achieve, the king must be able to achieve certain goals in his country, in his country and in his administration. And in order to achieve that particular goal, the king should inflict punishment. So now Satyavan has seen what is the goal. I am not able to, when I see the punishments, I am not able to see what is the goal you are achieving to punishment. Whether the punishment is deterrent or whether the punishment is punitive, whether it is retributive, whether it is what is called making a person feel the atonement, or whether to make him expiate. See, what goal we are going to achieve by the punishment? So, avyakritam vyajahara. Earlier, all the people, they wanted order in the society, and if the people who have committed crimes, if they have been punished severely, then that it will act as a deterrence. So the earlier kings, what is called, followed punishment more as a policy of deterrence, hence they followed it. But can we have deterrence alone as the single goal? This is how Satyavan approached it. Vadaya unniyamaneshu pitureva anusasanat. There, what is called the father's command. Because king's command, they are being led. Then Satyavan told his father, Adharmatam yati dharmaha yati adharmascha dharmatam vadho natra bhaved dharmaha naitad bhavitum arhati. Say, sometimes, say, now you have given him a punishment, that is vadha, and naitad bhavitum arhati, it cannot be restored, that is, they cannot be brought back. Hence, it should be impalement or some sort of such capital punishment. And he says, adharmatam yati dharmaha. Are such punishment really good, and are they real punishments? Because now we call it something as crime, adharmaha. But in later times, or in different times, on different place, this adharma may be treated as dharma. Even what is called, sometimes we may change our policy, change our principle, and say this is okay here and after. This will not be treated as a crime at all. So what is treated as crime today may become permissible tomorrow, and what is permissible tomorrow today may become a crime. So even when our definitions of dharma, that is our definitions of law or definitions of what is legal, is susceptible to change, how can we inflict a punishment which cannot be changed at all, or which cannot restore back the people? So that becomes very important point to be noted. Vadho natra bhaved dharmaha. So never can such capital punishments be construed as legal or dharmic. This is how he asked the question. Only single question. Then Vimatsena counters him. If such severe punishments are not given, then how can we say? We have to understand whether, I don't know whether the questions are universal, the answers are universal, etc. That is not a problem. But at least in the given situation, we have to understand it is where so much of what is called advances might not have been there to find out the crime or identify the crime, the crime doers, and what is called immediately arrest them, etc. So the only thing available to them was deterrence, because crime detection may not have been so fast, so may not be so easy. So the only thing may be deterrence. So from that angle, Vimatsena asks, if people are not punished, then what happens? There will be sankara, confusion. People may not be able to know what is dharma and what is adharma. There will be sankara, that is confusion between dharma and adharma. They may think, because that particular person has not been punished, we thought that is what he is doing is right, hence I have performed it. People may claim innocence on the basis of some people not getting punished and things like that. So that sort of problem will be there. So he says sankara will be there. Sankara means confusion, and what is not only that, property etc. cannot be decided. Mamedamiti nasyaitat, we cannot accept all those things. So lokayatra, that will be a deadlock in the worldly activities. There won't be any law and order that can be maintained. That sort of problem is there. But now Satyavan will not have this argument. Satyavan proceeds with the need for proper teaching and supervision. He says, this is not the mistake of the people who are doing crime. It is the mistake of the state. He says, the state should be able to give proper instruction and make the people follow the rules and regulations. As I am just giving, as Ashoka has given his rock edicts and pillar edicts, etc., displayed everywhere. This sort of knowledge must be disseminated, and there should be people who should be appointed for every, they will call it Puga, Sangha, Shreni, and all those things. In such groups, people should be appointed to guide people, to direct them, and then so that people will be knowing what is good, what is bad. The knowledge should be more important. That is, all the people should become informed people. Only when they become informed, only when they know what is their duty, then many of the people may not do mistake. They will not like to do. So instead of what is called fighting them, sometimes out of their ignorance, they might have committed crimes. Ignorance may not be an excuse, but we should see to it that they are not ignorant. They have been properly informed. So the responsible heads must behave properly, and then they should also make the people behave, and seeing their superiors behaving properly, they also will be what is called they also will be try to follow, they will be forced to follow, or they will be following their elders. So now the Sanskrit drama, Natakam Prakaranam Bhana Prakasanam Divaha, this Bhana is one type of drama that also what is called tries to shame people, but that is the later development, but that also tries to what is called a present. And here Satyavan says, when the guides complain, when they, now the punishment will be, that is the king's rule will be, when the guides present the case, I am not able to control them. When such a thing is presented, then the king should inflict a punishment where Tattva Bedena Yachastram Tat Karyam. Tattva Abeda means, that is, it shall not, Tattva Abeda means all the Panchabhutas should be separated from the body. That is, the person what is called is being given impalement or such capital punishment. I am reminded of here the Upadesas of Sadguru, Sri Jnanananda Saraswati here in Vishnu Mohan Foundation. She used to say, when the Nrisimha Jayanti is celebrated, the Nrisimha Jayanti invariably happens to be what is called the Hiranyakasipu's death day also. Because at the time of Nrisimha Jayanti, unlike in Ramavatara and Krishna Avatara, in the case of Nrisimha Jayanti, it is a sudden appearance, manifestation of the Lord, and immediately Hiranyakasipu was put an end to. So Nrisimha Jayanti invariably happens to be the death day of Hiranyakasipu also. So how to look at this? We can say at least there is an obstacle has been removed. Thank God, an obstacle has been removed, and I will be able to what is called to follow my what is called the duty properly. It should be like that. He disturbed me, he hit me, he troubled me, and as a punishment he has been put into. So there should not be rejoice in the what is called in the death of Hiranyakasipu or looking at it from him at all. It is okay, we can rejoice at the manifestation of the Lord, but it is, we are free. It is only our freedom that can be taken into account, not celebrating the death of other people. So that celebration, etc., becomes, it changes our personality. It leads to the enjoyment in the suffering, troubles of others. That should not be there. So in the same attitude, and not only that, putting suffering, Satyavan says, putting suffering, that is putting such criminals into suffering is not making them suffer, but also putting so many innocent people also to suffer. The state has to address this. There is no other go. Because Bharya, Mata, Pita, Putro, Hanyante, Purushenate, Dasyun, Nihanti, Vairaja, Bhuyaso, Vapyanakasaha. When a criminal is punished, so many relatives of the criminal who are dependent on him, for whom he is the breadwinner, they will be unnecessarily putting into trouble. So, what should be there? Is it proper to put one criminal to suffering, or proper to put so many innocent people to suffering? And should the state accept the responsibility or not? Because he is putting so many people, the criminal might have committed mistake, and so many innocent people might have suffered. As he is what is called mindlessly making other people suffer, it is a consequence these people are. But he is a criminal, he can take such an attitude. But can the state take such an attitude? Can the state also what is called conduct itself on par with him? This is how he looked at it. Na Moolaghatah Kartavyah Naisha Dharma Sanatanaha. acting like this is Mulaghata. Mulaghata means cutting the root. So criminal justice system should not be cutting at the roots. It should be restorative and reformative, and it cannot be retributive and punitive. That cannot be for, because we will be, those people also may turn out, because if they are not able to thrive, if they are not able to sustain themselves, the relatives also, they can later on turn into a criminal. Thereby we are going, we are making more people in life's goal of each and everybody. There, according to those times, the life's goal must be dharma and moksha. And a person should not be deprived of what is called realizing moksha, realizing dharma, following dharma, and realizing moksha. A person should not be deprived of that. But when he is what is called deprived of realizing his goal of moksha, what is the purpose of the life? Do we have that right to take away? Because we do not know how his next life will be, what is called, how he can proceed. So that the entire series of the life we are disturbing. So a person should not be deprived of the goal of deprived of the chance to realize the goal of his life. He should be given he should be given a chance. So he who realizes his mistake, he who realizes, vows that I will not take the what is called commit mistake again, visarga marhaha. They are the people who should be released. They should be freed. And what should be the punishment? The basic philosophy of punishment should be vitrasya manaha sukritaha. That is vitrasya. That is, it should be by the base of threat, and it should be by the basic of threat. So essentially, we should try to control the people by means of threat, but not actually inflicting punishment. Say, there is a, what is the punishment's uddeshya? They say, dharma mein lagana to dandaka uddeshya hai. People should be made to follow dharma. That should be the goal of what is called punishment, and not actually punishing. This is what he says. And all the people, the kings, who have sukrute naiva rajanaha. So by their what is called welfare state, the kings have ruled for a long time, not what is called punishing, or not by what is called in the autocratic behavior or in a tyrannical way. And there may be some people who may be doing mistakes. The repeat offenders, aparadhe punah punaha, dhamba mohena. Dhamba means arrogance, and moha means out of ignorance or error of judgment. There may be what is called kuryat asampradam. They may do certain inappropriate things, and what to do. That is the discussion. But here Dhimatsena puts a question. Say, he puts a question historically. In the very early days, they say in the Krita Yuga. In the Krita Yuga, people did not commit mistakes. Others may find fault with them, or others may shame them. So just because the fear of the society, people did not commit mistakes. But in the Treta Yuga, mistakes were committed, but when people chided them, they stopped it. And in the Dwapara Yuga, it was the penalty. But in Kali Yuga, can we follow those three to control people, to control mistake, to stop mistake? Is it possible? This is Dhimatsena's question. So this sort of thing is there in the Yaugali concept in Jain history, also Jain, the origin of the world, etc. Now, whether we follow, Dhimatsena asks this question, whether it is possible to follow such a thing. But, and he gives lots of other examples. Padmam Smasana Dadatte. Those who what is called the grave diggers. And what should we do when the grave diggers, etc. are there? They are not going to pay heed to anybody. So the discussion is going on. Each one holds his view, Dhimatsena, because the answer is not there very much. Answer cannot be given. It all depends on what sort of what is called view we want to follow. Always it is there. How, to what extent we have been put into suffering. From that alone, the answer will be coming. Not, we cannot, what is, it is always easier to talk about others, but only when we are in their shoes, then how we are going to look into it. That's why some of the things are given, the stories are given, and the answers are given what is called, I mean, they are given loose, they are what is called hanging. But the Satyavan, has got one statement finally. Bhavet Kala Visheshena Kala Dharmasya Shodasi. Maybe because of time, etc., there can be some problems. That is, the cruel times might have forced some people to do something. Then, when the punishment is inflicted, the punishment should be Ayuhu Shaktimcha Kalancha Nirdisya Tapa Adishet. Whatever tapaha prayashchita, whatever prayashchita is enforced, Ayuhu, we should look into the age, Shaktim, the strength of the person, how to undergo this penalty, even if penalty, etc., is introduced, whether he is in a position to pay, whether it will be depriving his family members, all those things have to be taken. Kalam, whether he has got sufficient time to follow that retribution, how far his life is there. Because in those days, what should be the life expectation and longevity and all those things, they also have to be taken into account. And then punishment has to be given. Ancient lawgivers, when they have introduced the law, Bhutanam Anukampartam, so essentially they have mercy, that is compassion, as the goal of all their law. Neha Jahyat Dharmapalam Mahate. Dharmapalam, the need and necessity to follow dharma, the need and necessity to stick to dharma, and the need and necessity to reap dharmapala is mahat, is very important, and that shall not be deprived of. So here comes the question of punya, papa, dharma, adharma, and how one is conditioned by dharma and adharma and all those things. All those things becomes a separate topic totally. In fact, Valmiki stories will be one fine example in this particular context. I think this is how the discussion has been, what is called, stopped there. Satyavan has given his idea. What should be the philosophy? Dharma na jakhya dharma palam mahate. What should be the philosophy of punishment, and what philosophy one must have in his mind? How he has to introduce the philosophy. I mean, implement the philosophy, and accordingly the punishment, that is ayush shaktincha kalancha, in the case of repeated offenders and other problems, dhamba, moha, repeated offenders, etc. In such cases, how the punishment can be, what should be the philosophy of punishment, or what should be the principle on which the punishment should be given. He stated it, and Dimat Sena did not say anything, because the people who are very strict about punishment, who want to, you might have been, what is called, to a certain extent satisfied. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bala, for handing it over to me, and thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. I think you have elaborately explained quite a lot of points, as well as answered to the queries that have been sent in the chat box. So Dr. Srinivasan, through his deep textual understanding of Mahabharata, shared with us actually how Dharma has been presented from the perspective of Lokasamgra in Mahabharata, while elaborating on what should be the purpose of punishment. And he touched upon an important aspect, and that is humanness, which comes out in form of compassion all through the text. He explained that the king must have the philosophy of punishment, that is, he must be able to achieve some goals in the kingdom through punishment. So punishment is not to be goal-less, and not just self-centric punishment that is usually inflicted in certain parts of the world. While thus concluding, he did mention that the uddeshya of punishment, the purpose of punishment, is to follow the dharma in light of Mahabharata, the very establishment of dharma. So this is one of the important takeaways from today's session, no matter which theory of punishment the state adheres to. That's what my little understanding has been. Well, on behalf of the participants, Professor Bala, our team of Spark Project, Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi, and Kamala Nehru College, I thank Dr. Srinivasan for being with us today on the Spark webinar platform, a series of webinars that we are conducting since the first week of June. This is our 17th lecture in the whole series. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan, for sparing time for us and shedding light on a very unique topic, which probably we have not been able to touch till till now. Thank you on behalf of all the participants. I even would like to thank all our enthusiastic participants for the support by being religiously there in all the Saturday webinars. I request you all to follow our social media handles as well as try to share whatever information we are uploading. Thank you for being there. And before we go ahead,
Gitesh, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Give me just 1 minute.
Yes, Doctor.
I see His Holiness Sri Swami Hariprasad Ji being present here in this among the audience. So I request Swamiji to bless us all.
Am I able to see him if we can unmute him?
Swamiji, can you open your video and
are we audible to him?
Sri Hariprasad Ji. Swamiji, I think
I've asked him to start the video.
Yeah, probably there is some problem with the connectivity there.
I think, Dr. Bala, there is a problem.
Not able to join.
Not able to join.
Yeah, there could be some connectivity problem. Sorry for that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
So,
please go ahead. Yeah.
I request all of you to switch on your videos so that we can have the screenshots for our record. I'm on screen 1. That is what we do religiously after every session. We're going on screen 2 now, page 2. I request all the participants to switch on their videos just for a few seconds. On page 3, we are back on page 1. We are done with the pictures. Thank you and namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you.